Hey there guys, I'm back to another game review. Today I am finally taking a look at God of War Ragnarok on the PlayStation 5. A follow-up to the 2018 PS4 game, fans were finally met with Kratos and Atreus' next adventure. A bombastic tale where they must learn to listen and trust one another. The gameplay is still the same action with more weapons and tools to your disposal. If you love what the 2018 game presented, then you probably already played this one. However, as someone who didn't totally fall in love with 2018's new direction, did Ragnarok change my mind? Let's talk about it.
When God of War Ragnarok launched in 2022, I was still busy getting my bachelor's degree. I didn't have time to sink in 30 hours for a story-driven action-adventure game. Nevertheless, I heard so much praise about this sequel and wanted to get back into it as soon as possible. This was one of the biggest releases for the PlayStation 5 ever since the console's launch in 2020. Ideally, I would have played God of War 2018 again before diving into this one, but I didn't have the time. I feel like my opinion of that game is tainted from the fact I rushed my playthrough. Not that I hated the game, but didn't 100% fall in love with Kratos' new direction. I feel like if I ever returned to it, my opinion would be for the better. Now that I paid my dues and completed God of War Ragnarok's main story, I can totally understand how well crafted this new iteration of the series is. The gameplay brings our duo to a whole new level on top of the stakes being at an all-time high. From the moment you start the game, you're right back to where 2018 ended. Freya is seeking vengeance after Kratos killed her sons. After shaking her off your trail, then Thor and Odin show up at your front door looking to bring Atreus back to Asgard. Once the action finally settles, we learn about possible events that may lead to the events of Ragnarok. Destiny is already written, but can Kratos and Atreus rewrite history? Obviously, a lot happens in God of War Ragnarok's main story to carry its 30-hour length. I'm not trying to spoil much because I managed to not know anything going into the story. I will reveal certain things as they pertain to gameplay elements. Kratos obviously doesn't want Ragnarok to happen because he's done with that God of War lifestyle and wants to chill in Norse mythology for retirement. Atreus, on the other hand, is more keen on starting the war than any kid should be. Because of this mindset, Atreus is often by himself, sneaking off to other realms to find his true answers and potentially change the prophecy. Despite Atreus doing stupid teenager things, this gave his character much needed growth that was missing previously. He interacts with many characters that shape Atreus into the person that he is by the end of the adventure. Every character you meet along your way, big or small, comes into play at some point later on. All in all, I enjoyed what God of War Ragnarok was able to accomplish from a story perspective. The game really takes its time to develop these characters. The climactic battle does feel a little rushed, like once it starts, it almost instantly ends. Might be a PlayStation Studio syndrome kind of thing, rushing the third act, but I digress. Gameplay-wise, it's the same God of War action from 2018, but with more bells and whistles. Kratos is still the same powerhouse as before, wielding both the Blades of Chaos and the Leviathan Axe, strategically blocking incoming attacks and dodge when appropriate. Atreus is now fully playable while still helping Kratos at a moment's notice. His character is more focused on shooting arrows while saving close-range combat for finishers. He's not too much different from Kratos, but enough to make him his own character. Combat between both of them is challenging enough where mashing the attack button will not work. You have to think about what the opponent can do while learning their patterns. Spartan Rage returns, making quick ease of enemies to get tons of damage down. One of my favorite parts of Ragnarok's gameplay is the Metroidvania elements. It's not extensive, but it's cool to see parts of the area blocked off, only to be unlocked when you retrieve an upgrade. Same goes for later in the game, where the payoff happens hours later. It encourages the player to explore as much as possible, even if you run into dead ends. Speaking of exploration, each area is large and vast. It's not an open world game by any means, but there's enough ground to cover to make it feel like one. Upgrading Kratos and Atreus is essential to take down later enemies, and oh boy, there's a lot to keep track of for each character. From their weapons, to armor, to combo abilities, to inherent stats, there might be too much in this department. Upgrades go hand in hand with exploration. The more you explore, the more resources you'll have for upgrades. The better upgrades you have, Kratos and Atreus' stats will be higher. So in short, Explore as much as possible in God of War Ragnarok. The puzzles are not that bad, and same goes for the collectibles. If you're stumped long enough on a puzzle, characters will give you hints with in-game dialogue, but if it's an optional side quest, the characters won't say anything. I know some people complain the characters talk too much and giving away what to do next, but honestly, I don't mind it. It does seem a little jarring when Atreus says, "We need to go left," but if you want to go right for extra collectibles and general exploration, that's cool too. But it gives the player a sense of direction. I need that sometimes with my small gamer brain getting lost in a linear action-adventure game. I don't know if there's an option to turn off this dialogue, but I personally like it. What you find in hidden areas / alternate pathways varies from extra loot to a mini boss. The extra loot does give extra context for certain story elements, but nothing crucial. The mini bosses, or berserkers as they're called, are probably my favorite fights in the entire game because they really challenge you in mastering Ragnarok's combat. You'll die multiple times fighting them, but all the more satisfying when you collect the loot from their dusty corpse. God of War Ragnarok's gameplay is top-notch stuff. The RPG elements make progress feel natural and rewarding. Both Kratos and Atreus bring the action combat fans have come to know and love. If you like what God of War 2018 accomplished, then you'll love Ragnarok's step up as a sequel. Presentation-wise, it's Santa Monica Studios' best looking game to date. While it's available on PS4 and PS5, soon to be PC, the 60 FPS is well worth on the current generation. It's smooth and never once hiccup during my playthrough. Environments and character models are on point. Something I noticed though is the occasional glitch or bug, but nothing that happens consistently. God of War Ragnarok is one of the best third-person action-adventure games of this generation, taking everything from the 2018 game and making it 10 times better. The story has elevated both Kratos and Atreus, having them butt heads to prevent the oncoming war. Gameplay is just as engaging as before. With more tools to your disposal and Atreus being fully playable, there's a ton to look forward to while playing Ragnarok. Presentation is the typical PlayStation Studios affair, polished graphics, and a ton of accessibility options.
There's so much content to check out here. Definitely worth playing, especially if you liked what 2018 did back on the PS4. Now, if you haven't played this game yet though, I would definitely hold out before playing Ragnarok, just because, the game does give a pretty good recap of what happened previously, but it's definitely worth playing just to fully understand what's going on within the world and its characters. Now, this is where I would end my review, but I have a whole free piece of DLC to check out called God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. I've been told this is extremely rewarding to play, especially to those who played these games on the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 3. So, with that in mind, is God of War Ragnarok Valhalla worth checking out? Let's talk about it.
At the end of 2023, a free piece of DLC shadow dropped for God of War Ragnarok called Valhalla, described as a roguelike where you face enemies with later runs getting harder and harder. Although this didn't cost any extra for players, this is an epilogue to Kratos' adventure at the end of Ragnarok. I won't spoil what happens, but it's true, the God of War games from the PS2 and PS3 era play a role in the DLC story. It's not super important to know because honestly I forgot most of the story from those games except key points, but I'm not gonna lie, it was super cool to see it all come together in Valhalla. Gameplay wise, it's a roguelike using God of War Ragnarok's excellent combat system. Kratos is completely stripped of his upgrades and any fancy moves from the main adventure. As you clear a room of enemies, you'll pick a perk or attribute to help you along your run. It could be a runic attack or a stat boost. All the upgrades you pick up are temporary and will only help you during the run. After you finish the run or die, all the runic attacks and other upgrades are removed and you must start from scratch. There are permanent stat upgrades, but they're only unlockable at the shore. Think of it as the starting area where you can make adjustments to Kratos' moveset and make him stronger. The combat itself is the same as before. Depending on the weapon you choose at the start though, the run will give you upgrades for that weapon. Using the Blades of Chaos, you'll see upgrades for that pop up. Same goes for the Leviathan Blade, which is cool because you can actually dictate how your run progresses in the playstyle you want to go for. The biggest difference for the combat is not having Atreus with you, so you can't rely on arrows and his help to defeat enemies. It's all about Kratos and the enemies in front of you. That's it. Valhalla is a super cool piece of DLC. It's kind of crazy that it's free. You have a nice 6 to 10 hours of extra gameplay that challenges you to make little mistakes as you climb Valhalla. Without a secondary character to help you, mastering Ragnarok's combat system is more important than ever. Santa Monica Studios did not have to tie Valhalla's story into Kratos' past, but they do it in such an amazing way. I loved seeing the Greek mythology stuff again. Even the little things were great to see too. I can see why so many people want a PS5 collection of all the old games, because I definitely felt like playing them again after finishing Valhalla.
And yeah, that is my review of God of War Ragnarok. It's hard to believe that this is the longest game yet, and it might be the best one too. While I still have a soft spot for God of War 3, it's hard to deny Ragnarok's greatness. And yeah, that is my review. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys have not already, you can subscribe. I put new videos up on Saturdays. You can follow me on social media at TV Sonic Gaming, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, pretty much everything. I put updates on my future videos. And you can check out my podcast called the Travis and Damien Podcast. We talk about games, movies, and anime every other week. And yeah, that is all I have for today. Thank you guys for watching this video once again. Now, see you guys next time with more videos.